We're trying to unify the digital media industry here in Kansas City. It's a very segregated, it's very decentralized organization that there's 50,000 people who are work in that workforce, but they're not unified in a way to really get that ecosystem humming, and that's what we're trying to work with at Digistory KC and KC Imagine.
Enterprise Kansas City is building out the cybersecurity ecosystem in western Missouri and Kansas, and that's to help address the 14,000 open jobs in cybersecurity. Also, there's a tremendous opportunity in innovation and enterprise growth in the cybersecurity ecosystem, and so we're trying to catalyze all of those areas.
Biologics are innovations in the pharmaceutical industry that are developed using or inspired by living tissues and organisms. The federal government has made massive investments in cluster development across the country. Lo and behold, this industry that we picked to focus on just a few years ago is now at the center of a national conversation about security and competitiveness in synthetic biology and biologics. And so, we picked wisely, we picked inclusively, and that's why I'm so focused on building the biologics effort here in Kansas City.
We're trying to build a digital health industry cluster on digital health, in this case, meaning everything digital in health, from imaging to the traditional electronic health records to wearables, and how they interact with humans, and look to promote the greater good in health.
The Critical Materials Crossroads strives to build the critical materials manufacturing base for critical goods. Critical goods are those manufactured products that are essential for economic and national security.
The hurdles for adoption and growth are best answered by being in a cluster, I think, because we can align people toward advocacy, toward legislative promotion, various different aspects to get over those hurdles as a collective, as opposed to one company just going out and beating their heads against the wall.
When we think about the biologics cluster that we're building in Kansas City, I would say that there are really two sides to that. There's the biomanufacturing side, and on that side, our assets are more industry aligned. They look like the biomanufacturing facility that Pfizer runs in McPherson, Kansas, which represents already 5% of global market share in human health vaccines. Facilities run by Merck in DeSoto, which just recently announced a $150 million expansion in the research space. We've got some great assets in Kansas City as well. And so a couple of those are the National Bioagro Defense Facility. So we already saw that zoonotic diseases like COVID have a huge impact on human health. And so some of the great research that's foundational to our future understanding of zoonotic diseases is coming out of NBAF and the other assets surrounding it in Manhattan. At the same time, we've made huge investments in the Kansas City metro area at KU, especially at KU Med, that are leading our understanding of how to build more inclusive and representative clinical trial processes, which when we think about the biologics and the precision health that it enables, are really important to understand, because that's what's going to allow the impact of these innovations to be more equitable than medical innovations have been in the past.
What we need more than anything to grow as a cluster is to unite all those elements and give them all a voice, a collective voice that gets things done that will help that industry move forward. And our industry, most of what's out there in Kansas City are smaller organizations, medium-sized or even small studios, and even a lot of contract or freelance workers. I mean, we have 50,000 people doing this kind of work in Kansas City with only 3 big businesses in town. So if you get all of those forces to work together, a lot could be done, and we would get rid of a lot of what's happening where people are still looking outside for talent when we have plenty of available talent here, and we're working to improve that talent pool by making sure that the industry understands how the universities are preparing that talent and vice versa. So for us, it's getting those audiences together in the ecosystem to work on mutual needs that's maybe more important than anything else. You have a larger voice, you have a larger vision for what can happen in that industry, and it's being drawn together with people who are working hard to make that vision happen.
With respect to reshoring any sort of manufacturing capability, we require innovation in order to be competitive with the East Asian countries, especially. They can manufacture at 1/10 of the cost that we can in the United States with our high compliance, our high occupation, and our high wages. So that by itself requires innovation in order to reduce the number of steps in a process, or to figure out how we're going to be environmentally responsible in doing it, or how we're going to be safe in doing it.
When we're building out the ecosystem for cybersecurity, the talent piece is first and foremost, because that's what it's dependent upon. The second step in our effort is around innovation. And it's going to come from both the universities and the private sector companies. I forget who said it earlier, one of the things we learned when I was working on the state economic development plan for Kansas, and I think Melissa stated, we're really good at some of our innovation, but we're really bad at commercializing it in this region. And that's an area we really want to focus on, is how do we not only have the innovation, but then commercialize it here.
Because of this kind of decentralized industry that we have, is a lot of digital media professionals don't get the opportunity to collaborate with each other, to connect, and from those connections you get new projects, new business, you get the innovation that we've been talking about. So we have partnered with KC Digital Drive to offer what we call Digital Scene KC. Digital Scene KC events are named that because every event happens in a different location, and each location is tied to the theme of the discipline in digital media for that session. It was a great opportunity for people to connect, get new ideas, update each other on trends and what's happening locally in the economy. So that has been a really terrific partnership between KC Digital Drive and Digistory KC and KC Imagine.
KC Digital Drive and its partners have asked the hard questions, and they've brought us together, and irregardless of whether federal funding is the center that we all pivot around, you still want to push to help find out how we're going to make this happen. And I think that's the most important message to take away from KC Digital Drive.
I see KC Digital Drive being really valuable in breaking down silos and helping us work together as a community. And that is something that I think will make Kansas City more competitive as we move forward, is that we're working holistically together. And I think KC Digital Drive is going to be an important part of that leadership to help us get to that point.
The one thing I love about the Digital Drive team is you can always count on them in a pinch. And so they're great partners who really understand when things are important and do everything in their power to help move these initiatives forward creatively and with a lot of hard work. When it comes to the biologics work, Digital Drive has been a really valuable partner in helping to make sure that we're engaging community partners that we wouldn't have thought of because of the great track record of work in our community over the years. And they're coming in along organizations that are industry leading, like BioNexus and BioKansas. And when you think about kind of the small and mighty team of KC Digital Drive and the massive investments that we make in these regional research institutions, to kind of consider them the same tier of impact on these efforts across our city is really remarkable.
Digital Drive has been doing an excellent job over its 11 years to be able to understand given context by bringing together the right kinds of people. And they aren't always the usual suspects. They're people who meaningfully reside within a space that we would be touching. And so it's been particularly valuable for me to be able to be aligned with an organization that reaches out into the community and leverages the entrepreneurial perspective toward benefits in the community. So we've done projects within Kansas City based on the elevation of some of the technical leaders in the community, and have been able to have an impact based on that very alignment.
Today, Kansas City is the only top 50 metro area that has yet to leverage cluster-based or place-based innovation funding from the Economic Development Administration since the dramatic expansion of their remit 2 years ago. This has got to stop. It's not because federal funding is a silver bullet and will solve all our problems, but it's because winning federal funding is an indicator of alignment.
So Aaron, what you're doing today with getting us together is a great step toward rectifying that. Ron, I'm doing a poor job of communicating and educating the state. We know that we have SUNY Albany, Kissimmee, Florida, Austin, who have, gone through these technopolis, tens of billions of dollars of investment from the state, emerging technology funds. They get everyone behind these, and it takes them 20 years, but they're a different animal. We need someone to help break through that canonical barrier that we have in Kansas and Missouri to be able to go to that next stage.
Tony, what you just said is really important too for us to think about this. This isn't, we're gonna work on this, win tomorrow, and it's all great in 3 years. These are 20-year efforts. I mean, we need, on everything we're doing, the digital health stuff, that was started actually decades ago. We're just now identifying and working on it. You gave the MBAF example. Well, that was because we already had the animal health corridor in place. We already had an investment by the state in the BRI, Biosecurity Research Institute, and then NBAF came along. All of this takes years, and it's iterative, and we add assets together, and we build the store, and we engage external stakeholders. It takes decades. But to Melissa's point, if we don't change now, we just keep pushing off that point that we're going for every day. We just keep pushing 20 years out.
Well, and I think part of good alignment is good communication and good sequencing and good prioritization. And that means that there will be times where, one of these efforts goes for a federal grant and others don't. There will be times when that effort steps back on the next entity because it's a better suit for something else. All that is okay, but that takes coordination and communication and trust. And without a dedicated capacity to doing that in our ecosystem, it's going to be really hard for us to move forward. And it is important that we move forward because when we looked at the beginning of KC Rising, which I know many folks were involved in years ago, the impetus for starting KC Rising was that we had a set of peer cities 20 years ago that we thought were similar to us, that included places like Nashville and Denver that are not even in the same dimension today. We fell behind. And those cities made smart investments in their innovation ecosystems, in their transportation infrastructure, and many other things that we failed to make in Kansas City because we were comfortable, because things were already pretty good. We didn't feel like we needed them. But if we want to be in the same place again 20 years from now, we're doing a darn good job. And the only thing that would be insane is continuing to do the same things for another 10 years. We've got to make a change to how we think about resourcing and aligning around these opportunities.
I think sometimes the sense that alignment means, well, everyone needs to get on the same page and row in the same boat and move towards the same thing. But the reality is, everyone's not going to always do that. You can align resources and you can have an ecosystem working in concert, but sort of the nature of entrepreneurship, and I think each of these people is entrepreneurs in their own way. They may not be starting an enterprise in terms of a business, but you have taken a very entrepreneurial mindset to the digital media ecosystem, and I think you're right. That's what we need to be doing, is supporting the people who have the passion and have the energy and get some momentum and get an Engines grant, or you get money from Cleaver to build there are these signs that there's something real here, and we need to take the opportunity to support those individual champions who are building these clusters, and there will be more. There's going to keep being more innovations, and we need to have the the ecosystem assets in place to support and grow those as we keep moving forward.